Pahalgam, thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is the Newshour Special Edition this Saturday evening, and I'm Heena Gambhir. And viewers, tonight we start by juxtaposing two very important narratives. One that speaks of India's rise, and the other that talks of India's decline. Let's straightaway dive into what the narratives are and who the master builders are. Narrative number one, India rising. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is currently on a 5-nation tour. Since Wednesday, he has been conferred with highest civilian honours, the Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on Friday, and the Officer of the Order of the Star of Ghana. With these, he holds the distinction of being India's first Prime Minister to have received the highest number of international honours, a total of 25 such awards. Now, we all know, viewers, that India's post-Pahalgam terror attack military strike, Operation Sindoor, gave Pakistan deep and wide shivers. It's now out that India was dealing with not one, but 3 adversaries. On 4th of July, the Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Capability Development and Sustenance Department, Lieutenant General Rahul Singh, revealed that during Operation Sindoor, India faced not just Pakistan, but effectively 3 adversaries on the border. He said Pakistan was the front face. China provided it full visibility into Indian military deployments, using Pakistan as a live lab to test weapons supplied to Pakistan. Similarly, viewers, Turkey provided tactical weapons and drones to Pakistan. Now, this 3 versus 1 makes India's counter against Pakistan more credible. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal on Friday made it absolutely clear that any trade deal with America would only happen when it is a win-win situation for both the countries. Asked about US President Donald Trump's July 9 deadline, Piyush Goyal said, India never makes a trade deal based on a deadline. When the deal is good, fully matured and in the national interest, it's only then we accept it. Now, that's one contemporary narrative you, the citizen, have to analyze. But wait, there is a counter narrative as well, and that's by India's opposition. On Prime Minister Narendra Modi being honoured and India's successful Operation Sindoor, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge launched fresh missiles. He said Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy is not good. It earned us enemies. There are enemies of India on all corners. There is Pakistan on one side, China on the other, Nepal is also distancing itself. And everybody is moving away from India. Listen in.
इनकी फॉरेन पॉलिसी ठीक नहीं है. इनके फॉरेन पॉलिसी के वजह से, फेल्यूर के वजह से हमारे को सब तरफ से दुश्मन बने हैं. एक तरफ चाइना है, एक तरफ पाकिस्तान है, एक तरफ आज नेपाल भी हमसे दूर हो रहा है. हर लोग हमसे दूरी बना रहे हैं, हमको घेर लिए हैं. और मोदी जी, आप कहां हैं?
And then, viewers, leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, indulged in crystal ball gazing, predicting a gloomy picture about the trade deal. He dragged back his pet India surrender rhetoric. Rahul Gandhi on US trade talks said Piyush Goyal can beat his chest. He wants all he wants, but Prime Minister will meekly bow to Trump's deadline. And here's how Union Minister Piyush Goyal responded.
India does not negotiate under deadlines. We negotiate keeping national interests in mind, and national interest is paramount in all our work across the world. Well, nobody takes Mr. Rahul Gandhi seriously anymore because of the negativity that he, his party and his colleagues are continuously spreading. The falsehoods that they are spreading, I think they have lost the plot. I hope Mr. Rahul Gandhi can control his own party and his own governments.
So you heard what Union Minister Piyush Goyal had to say. Now, this is not all. With the Congress top brass painting a gloomy picture, congressmen have little choice but to do what their bosses are denying. Congress leader Udit Raj today revealed his deep knowledge of geopolitics by claiming that Pakistan was a globally more popular nation than India. Listen in.
That's true that India has been isolated, and so much isolated that not a single country is with us. And of course, during Indo-Pak war, it has been seen that number of the countries, they stood with Pakistan or they're standing Pakistan, and rather it's becoming the list is becoming big, that more and more countries are siding Pakistan, but none is with us clearly.
Now, viewers, this is just a screenshot of India's rise being undermined by an India declining narrative by the opposition. It just doesn't hurt the government of the day or the party that rules the centre, but the Indian state. Remember what Rahul Gandhi had said a few weeks ago?
If you believe that we are fighting a political organization called the BJP, that we are fighting a political organization called the RSS, you have not understood what is going on. The BJP and the RSS have captured every single institution of our country. We are now fighting the BJP, the RSS, and the Indian state itself.
Now, viewers, take a macro view here. The Congress party has no faith in the government. It's rejecting what the defense forces say. If one looks at the domestic theatre, the Congress-led INDIA bloc is targeting the Election Commission, which has pushed a revision of voters' list ahead of the Bihar elections. So we asked tonight a slew of questions. Was the India story more popular before 2014? Has India failed in its diplomatic mission? Is India isolated? Is it due to the government's policies, or the opposition does not want to see the real reason here? Isn't China targeting India, collaborating with Pakistan, meddling in Burma, Sri Lanka, Nepal and Bangladesh because India is rising? Isn't it a fact that an economically weak India wasn't a threat to China 11 years ago? Isn't Pakistan worried because India is retaliating? Despite multiple terror attacks, the soft Indian responses till 2014 suited India or Pakistan. Global powers are watching and tweaking policies because India is seen at the high tables, at the diplomatic high tables, at the G7. India hosted the G20. India has reached the moon. It's one of the top 5 economies. Isn't the US arm twisting global businesses because they are shifting bases to India? Isn't Donald Trump driving a hard trade deal to put speed breakers in India's economic march? Why is it that India's opposition parties do not want to see that global goalposts are being shifted, not because India is declining, but because India is rising? And that's our debate on Newshour Weekend Edition, today. And I'm joined by Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP. We have Tushar Gupta, who is a political analyst. Tehseen Poonawalla, a political analyst. Ghanshyam Tiwari, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And Professor Manojit, who is a political analyst as well. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. Tehseen Poonawalla, let me begin this discussion with you. I want to ask you a straightforward question that I just asked in my introduction. Why is it that India's opposition does not want to see that global goalposts are being shifted, not because India is declining, but today India is rising. It's much stronger. It knows how to defend itself. It is not dependent on others.
Thank you so much, Heena, for having me on the show. Good evening to you, to all my fellow panelists and to all your viewers. May I just begin with India today knows how to defend herself is something I don't ascribe to, and I think you also, Heena, will not. I think India always defended herself well. And we broke Pakistan in two. We've had several battles with Pakistan, with China. In fact, 67, 68, we defeated China at Nathula and Chola. That's not our topic of debate, but just putting that out there. I'll ask some very specific questions of the BJP spokesperson without whataboutery if I can get those answers. Ghanshyam and me on this side of the fence are not against India's rise. We are for India's rise. Very proud, at least I'm very proud that my Prime Minister's got so many top awards from all the countries. I'm very proud of it. He represents my country, he's my Prime Minister. Few questions. We know that during Operation Sindoor, it wasn't 3 nations, but 4 nations that attacked India. We know that there was something being planned in Bangladesh. We know there's a raw report about that. We know the next terror attack in India will happen from Bangladesh. We know that the government told BCCI not to go to Bangladesh. We know the level of radicalization in Bangladesh. For the last 1 year, I've used one line on Times Now. You may play any of my bites. What is plan B in Bangladesh where the NGO wala is running Bangladesh and as of today killing Hindus? We don't have a plan B. I've used one more line on Times Now. What is plan B in Syria? We have not just investments in Syria, we have a refinery. We have 4,500 odd Indians working in Syria. We now know a person associated with a terror group who was anti-India running Syria. We had great relations with the Assad family. Kudos to the Prime Minister also for that. What is plan B in Syria, where we have our investments today in Syria? Let me ask you a third question with regards. I'm not against India's rise. I'm asking you very logical questions to which I want an answer. We know on the Myanmar-Manipur border, Manipur is still not settled. We know villages have come out. We know those villages have become the center of supplying drugs, not just in India, but across. We know the drug base has shifted from the western border to the eastern border of India. What is plan B, both with Myanmar and with Manipur? Do you have a plan B? When we ask these questions to our Prime Minister and to our government, we are not because Ghanshyam and I are against India. We are asking logical questions that we need answers to. Answers that we are not getting, and I'll end with one thing. What was the raw desk doing? And I'm going to ask this very bluntly. We know that Trump is hyphenating India and Pakistan only because of the crypto deal. We know the kind of crooks Pakistan has got on board for that crypto mining deal that they're trying to do with Pakistan. All of this is known. And if you don't know, then you probably don't follow geopolitics. What was our plan B to counter that? Can you please tell me what is our crypto policy? I'll come to the next questions later on.
Okay. Sanju Verma, how will you like to respond?
You know, Heena, first and foremost, with no offense to Tehseen, the anchor of the show is Heena Gambhir, not Tehseen Poonawalla. I am under no compulsion. I am under no obligation to respond to Tehseen, please. I am under no obligation to respond to baseless questions of Tehseen Poonawalla. You know, Tehseen said, I said this on Times Now. I said that on Times Now. Yes, Tehseen, you are the same man who said in 2022 that the Congress will win Uttar Pradesh. You are the same Tehseen Poonawalla who in 2022 said that the Congress will win Uttarakhand. In 2024, you said the Congress will win Maharashtra. The Congress will win Haryana. You've had a nice big fat omelette on your face with the Congress losing Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Haryana. So what you say, I care 2 hoots about it. Now,
may I ask you how is that relevant?
Yes, please. Tehseen, I did not heckle you.
No, you
please
did. I'm just asking you. Sure.
No, you were not going to interject me. I was absolutely quiet when you were talking without heckling you even once. So show the same courtesy. Thank you. Now let me say one thing, Heena. The opposition to digress. And Tehseen kept saying, you know, Ghanshyam and me. I'm sure Ghanshyam is well educated enough. Whatever Ghanshyam has to say, he will say, and I will respond. My limited point is this. This is the same Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who 11 years back, there were more than 100 people, the so-called secularity, the so-called activist brigade, the NGO brigade, who said Modi should not get a visa to the United States of America. And I'm so happy. What is common to Nelson Mandela, Benjamin Netanyahu, Winston Churchill, and Prime Minister Modi? These are the only 4 people who have addressed the US Congress twice. Yes. Now let me come to some other interesting points. I always say that good diplomacy is also about good economics. Today, one of our largest trading partners is the Gulf Cooperation Council, consisting of Islamic countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, what have you. One of the other largest trading blocs with which India has excellent relationships is the ASEAN, where we've been forging deeper relationships with the likes of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, what have you. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the only Prime Minister to be visiting Croatia since it got independence in 1991, reinforcing India's position in the Balkans. By visiting Cyprus, and don't forget, Northern Cyprus has been encroached upon by Turkey. Prime Minister Modi is the first Prime Minister in 23 years to be visiting this Mediterranean nation, which he did a couple of days back, reinforcing India's position as a strategic partner in the Mediterranean region. And let's not forget that this is the same Prime Minister who visited Israel for the first time in 70 years. The Prime Minister did so way back in 2017 and dehyphenating our policy on Israel with that of the Arab world.
Right.
And let's not forget, we forged two highly successful free trade agreements with the United Kingdom and Australia. And God willing, we will also be able to forge one with the US. Without being verbose, let me end very quickly, Heena, by saying this. Very quickly. June 2014, Prime Minister Modi addressed the Parliament of Bhutan. August 2014, Parliament of Nepal. Parliament of Australia in November 2014. Parliament of Fiji in November 2015. Again, Mauritius in March 2015. Sri Lanka, March 2015. Parliament of Mongolia, May 2015.
Right.
Very quickly, another 20 seconds. December 2015, Parliament of Afghanistan. Joint session of US Congress, June 2015. Parliament of Uganda, July 2018. Parliament of Maldives, again, June 2019. Joint session of US Congress,
We have that
June
list also running for our viewers to see. Yes.
Ghana 2024. Parliament of Ghana, July 2025. Less than 36 hours back, becoming the first Prime Minister to address the Red House, as in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And
Right.
if you are still not Narendra Modi and his foreign policy, you need to visit a shrink.
Okay. Professor Manojit Mandal, now, on one hand, when Prime Minister Modi is, getting these kind of honors, he is representing the country. He's getting these awards, these honors, not because he's Narendra Modi, but because he's Indian Prime Minister. So when we have leaders from the opposition saying if someone gives Modi a cap or a medal, he will wear it and go around. And, people also trying to demean this particular honor that's being conferred by other countries. Do you think that is the right thing to do? Are we not being insensitive and disregarding such highly revered awards as well?
No, I think it's fine. I mean, Prime Minister getting the award from Ghana, Croatia, all other Balkan countries is not an issue. In fact, the Prime Minister is traveling a lot for the last 10 years or so. He probably has traveled more than 1 lakh kilometers by now. That's fine. But what is the end result? I think my good friend Tehseen was absolutely spot on. You could not handle your neighboring country. Bangladesh is one example, prime example. Nepal is another example. Sri Lanka, I dare say, would be another example. Myanmar is another example. And all those, I think, reflected during the crisis that India had after the Pahalgam attack, following the war. I mean, no real neighbor on Indian sides or in bordering countries actually, give their unambiguous support to India. I mean, there lies the failure of India's foreign policy. You have to rethink the foreign policy. You need to think about what is really the foreign minister doing, and then on top of that, you have a big brother, talking about India's ceasefire, blatantly. And if he's lying, Mr. Trump, Indian government should dismiss these lies. And the same person who is attacking Iran, which is our friendly country. Iran supported us, Afghanistan supported us. We don't know what is the real policy of India, even in case of Iran and Afghanistan. I mean, you have to come clean on the foreign policies, and you have to report to again, one very important point. All the opposition party, including All India Trinamool Congress, in fact, Mr. Abhishek Banerjee categorically stated, you need to convene a parliament immediately, special session of the parliament, to see what actually has transpired in all those, mega visits to the countries after the Pahalgam attack. You need to convene the parliament, and the government is absolutely insensitive to those demands from the opposition. No parliamentary session on Pahalgam, no parliamentary session even after the Sindoor operation or the visit of the foreign delegation. I mean, the government is completely insensitive. Whereas opposition parties gave their unconditional support to the government immediately after the Pahalgam.
Okay, one second. Professor Manojit Mandal, I heard you, viewers have heard you. It's been 18 minutes into the debate already, but I've still not been able to get the answer to the key questions that I posed in the beginning. And I want to go across to Tushar Gupta for that. I want to ask you what I asked Tehseen earlier. Why is it that India's opposition does not want to see that it is a reality? Global goalposts today are being shifted. Are they not seeing India's rise as a threat? If India was declining, would they see India as a threat? Is my direct question to you tonight.
Good evening, Heena. Look, the opposition will never acknowledge what's going on right about India because that would expose their own failures. You want to talk about China being an enemy? It was under the UPA government, China was preparing to launch the CPEC in Pakistan, an investment worth $60 billion, right between 2012 and 2014. But the interesting question to be asked is what happened in Balochistan that between 2014 and 2025, the CPEC would really not pick up. Pakistan was always an enemy, the kind of terror attacks that were unleashed on the Indian soil. Though the Congress did not choose to respond to them, but that doesn't mean Pakistan was still not an enemy. Bangladesh was radicalized way before the Prime Minister took over, yet one of the parties of the India alliance has been very against the idea of sending back, illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. So the dynamics in the neighborhood are pretty much the same, just that the reality within this government is far better. The clarity is far better than the previous government. Now coming to the larger world order, look, we are now looking at a China that is far more assertive than it was in pre-2014 because pre-2014 we were not manufacturing. Look at Apple, for instance, a company that created its dependency on China today is creating a China plus one policy. It's coming to India every year. Its investments, its production, its manufacturing in India is increasing exponentially. So surely China sees India as a threat, and Apple is just one example. Even on the MSME front, we want to manufacture more. I'll give you a very interesting story, Heena, and for your audience. You know, when the COVID pandemic struck in 2020, what was the biggest concern for our pharmaceutical importers? That we may run out of the stock when it comes to crocin, a medicine that basic almost in every single Indian household, because the active pharmaceutical ingredients that go into the production of these routine medicines, they were not being made in India. This was something that we depended on China for, and this was the legacy of the UPA government, something Ajit Doval spoke about back in 2014. So all that has changed. We have sort of went back to manufacturing. We are catering to the service industry. And I'll give you the US example. Back in 2019 or 2020, the US Trade Secretary had a problem with the UPI's market share. And those were early days for UPI. UPI is something that the Congress did not see a lot of logic in. Visa and MasterCard were losing market to UPI, and that is when the US Trade Secretary complained about it. Did you see India buckling it? Absolutely not. Look at Starlink. It's been pushing for access to India, but until it doesn't meet the Indian conditions, it's not getting the access. Ford went out of India because it cited some sort of regulations, though it was just poor market research. But even then, India did not buckle before Ford, another American company, another American giant. So when the opposition says that India will buckle under Trump, it's pressurized by Trump, that's all hogwash. In all honesty, they just want to hide their incompetence, their failures from back in the day.
Okay. Ghanshyam Tiwari, one very senior leader of India, ex-defense minister, in fact, had once said that China is the biggest threat to India. And do you know who am I talking about here? Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav. And today, we have a reaction from Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, who says it is because of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign policy, because of which we have enemies from all corners. On one side, there is China, and on the other, there is Pakistan. But going by what Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav had said at that time, one can deduce that at that time also China was a big enemy for India.
Good evening, Heena, to you, the viewers and fellow co-panelists. The Prime Minister Modi, when he was Chief Minister, he spoke about showing Lal Aankh to China. And when he became the Prime Minister, he started digging his roots, his village, and Xi Jinping's visits to India, and started connecting the dots. Swinging on the jhulas, offering dhoklas. In any year since then, BJP, RSS people visited China as if it was their backyard. Even at the time when the attacks why China happened. There were leaders of BJP and RSS visiting China. That aside, BJP in any year in the last 2-3 years has given more than $100 billion of business to China. 100 billion. So for BJP to stand here for 11 years, they made enemies out of our own citizens, telling them anti-national ho Pakistan chale jao. When the real time came to fight Pakistan, Donald Trump whispered and this government fell silent. It's a shame. It is an embarrassment that a BJP spokesperson can read out the number of parliaments that Prime Minister has spoken to, but he does not have the courage to call a special session of parliament and speak in his own parliament. What is the kind of trade deal that will push an Indian Prime Minister? It's bizarre. Not one of your viewers can put this 2 and 2 together. That what kind of trade deal will ensure an Indian Prime Minister decides to call out a ceasefire and not explain it when entire nation was backing him. And since then, Pakistan has gone from strength to strength, some by chance, some by the global alliances, whether it is the Trump Asim Munir lunch that BJP and other people said anything they want to say, but the reality is it puts Pakistan in a key position. Whether it is the UN Security Council presidency that is there for this month by chance. So there is no doubting the fact that Pakistan has gone strength for strength, despite the fact that they are the people behind the gruesome, brutal terror attack on innocent citizens. And Indian Prime Minister is globe-trotting without getting due importance. And the reason he's not getting due importance is you have a voiceless position with respect to Israel and Gaza. You have a voiceless position with respect to Israel and Iran. You have a voiceless position with respect to India and Pakistan itself. You have a voiceless position with respect to India and China. When China entered our regions, the Prime Minister went on record and said that koi nahi ghusa hai, which was almost like an insult to our martyrs who fought those Chinese soldiers. And it took us 4 years to create some kind of status quo after many, many rounds of talks with the defense. So the trade numbers don't lie. The 18-20 times
I heard the points you have made, and I will get Sanju Verma to respond to that. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, you still did not answer the direct question that I asked you. I asked you a question about what Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav had said when he was the defense minister, that China is the biggest threat to India. But now, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge wants the country to believe that it is because of Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy that China has become India's enemy. So was China not an enemy to India when Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav was the defense minister, when he said that, when he made that statement?
From the late Mulayam Singh Yadav ji to Mallikarjun Kharge ji today to Chief Minister Modi, everybody believed China is the biggest threat. But it is Chief Minister Modi, when he becomes the Prime Minister, he goes on a dhokla party with Xi Jinping. He meets Xi Jinping several times. He gives $100 billion of trade a year to China.
Sanju Verma wants to respond. Sanju Verma wants to respond.
Went on a China trip as if it was...
Okay, Sanju Verma.
Ghanshyam, you spoke at length and without wanting to be offensive. The only thing that Ghanshyam brings to the table is being abusive, and then being more abusive. No. This is the kind of depth that you show on national television. Shame on you. But let me come to the hard facts. I will corroborate my argument with facts. I don't believe in being abusive, unless you give me a good reason to be. Now let me say one thing. Pakistan today is a threat to India. Pakistan's economy is going boom, boom, boom. They are doing exceedingly well. That's the stupid narrative that I'm hearing. And for your audience, Heena, our GDP today is $4.3 trillion. Pakistan is grappling with $300 billion, which means we are 14.3x bigger than Pakistan. Pakistan's yearly exports are $36 billion. Our yearly exports are $821 billion, which means our exports are 23 times bigger than Pakistan's. Let me tell you one more thing. Just 24 hours back, India's forex reserves hit a high of $703 billion, just shy of the $705 billion last year, which means our forex reserves are 70 times bigger than Pakistan's. Now, let me come to China. In February 2021, for the first time in post-independence India's history, China voluntarily disengaged. China shares a border with 18 countries and has a dispute with at least 27. For the first time in China's own history, it offered to voluntarily disengage because Narendra Modi Pradhan Mantri hai. We are not like Pandit Nehru, who offered 38,000 square kilometers of chin on a golden platter,
Right.
saying not to blare grass grows there.
Okay.
Last point.
Okay.
Pandit Nehru ki to baat chhodiye. Narendra Modi is not like Indira Gandhi, who in 1974 gave away Kachativu Islands to Sri Lanka, saying it's just made up of rocks and boulders. So
All
shame
right.
to the Congress, shame on Samajwadi Party. Modi hai to mumkin hai is a reality.
All
Sudhar
right.
jao.
All right. Sanju, you've made your point. I know Tushar also wants to respond, but before that, I want to go back to Tehseen Poonawalla as well. Tehseen, you started by saying that India has always defended itself. I was just looking at some data. There were 45 major terror attacks between 2005 and 2014 backed by Pakistan. So before 2014, is the Congress party trying to say that the neighbors, India's neighbors, were very good with India?
May I answer that? I'll answer that question, but I want to make another point. You're right.
But can you answer
And
this question first and then
this
you
is the
can
point.
make your point?
I want to answer. I'll answer your question first, but then I want to make another point. You're right. Your facts, Heena, are perfect, and you're absolutely right. And different governments dealt differently with it. I completely agree with you. For example, in 2002, the Parliament attack, where the Parliament of India was attacked. Do you know Prime Minister Vajpayee had the Operation Parikrama, where we lost the most amount of Indian soldiers in peacetime. Nobody called Prime Minister Vajpayee as a weak Prime Minister. Do you know that the Indian Airlines hijacking, Ajit Dovalji handed the terrorists over, who one of them was involved in 9/11? Nobody is blaming Ajit Dovalji. Different governments deal differently. And I congratulate Prime Minister Modi. I'm a supporter of Operation Sindoor. Now, may I ask my questions? Kansha made a very important point which was not answered. India's trade deficit, because you went to 2014, Heena, was $37.8 billion with China in 2014. It's $100 billion today. China, the same enemy. Who's strengthening it? Kancham's question is not being answered. Second, we're buying Russian oil. 1st January 2015, January 2025, the deadline for paying was over. We have to now pay them about 60,000 Indian crore rupees, 60,000 crore rupees in Indian rupees, lying in Indian banks. Russia does not want Indian money. It wants Chinese currency. We've ended up paying in Chinese currency. Who's responsible for that? Third question, may I ask you? Yesterday, China announced unilaterally that BRICS will have its own payment gateway. This is completely terrible for India. It is the worst thing for Indian economy. Sanju understands economy. Has India officially said we will not be? How can BRICS be announced unilaterally by China? Are we going to get to? These are questions we are asking. I'm again saying my Prime Minister gets awards. I'm very happy. Can we answer the question that I'm asking? Cannot be Prime Ministers address parliaments. That's not. The question is my question.
Tehseen, you may be happy, but other leaders of the Congress party are certainly not happy, like Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge. As I mentioned earlier, he's been mocking the Prime Minister, saying that if someone gives Modi a cap or a medal, he'll wear it and go around. So these are the comments we've been getting from very, very senior leaders like the President of the Congress party. Tushar wants to respond to the point you've made.
On the point of Congress leaders commenting, we had Pawan Khera on the news show saying post 26/11, whatever Congress did was success. So let's not even get into that. On China, people often forget that this government is not strengthening China. Despite Xi Jinping lobbying in India, Huawei was not given access to 5G infrastructure. India's telecom market is $100 billion strong, and Huawei is not a part of a 5G infrastructure, and that was a strategic security call. You look at TikTok, Americans are having a hard time banning TikTok. We did ban it in 2020, and I'm very thankful to this government to have banned that menace. Now, more importantly, on the $100 billion deficit that we have with China, people need to understand that this deficit is largely because of the MSMEs and why they choose to trade with China, that is, they import materials and then they sell it with a profit within the Indian market. They tend to do this over manufacturing in India, and that is why the Modi government has been making policies, has been introducing reforms that makes it easier for MSMEs to manufacture in India, which is why in the last two budgets by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, you've been hearing about credit access, you've been hearing about some sort of employment credits and things like that. The whole idea is to get the MSMEs, which are exploding in size, to stop trading with China, stop importing cheap goods from China, and start manufacturing at scale and capacity in India. And this will take time, but this doesn't mean we are strengthening China. We are slowly diversifying away from China. It will take the time it needs to take.
Okay. Ghanshyam Tiwari. Ghanshyam Tiwari wants to respond. Yes. Could you unmute yourself, Ghanshyam?
To say that $100 billion trade deficit is our strategy to defeat China is a foolish argument to make. To say that 20 meetings with China was a way to weaken China is also a foolish argument to make. To say that we did not lose our upper edge when Galwan happened, when Doklam happened, and when the Prime Minister said that nobody entered while our soldiers were martyred is also a foolish argument to make. And to say that Trump did not intervene, and I can use my phone and call, hello Prime Minister, can you please tell us about did you speak to Trump? And nobody speaks on the other side. But I can report to Times now that Prime Minister said I will speak in the Parliament. This is what we are doing. We are calling, our bluffs are being called out. Foreign policy is not a place to bluff anybody.
No, but who do you believe here? You believe Donald Trump and not Indian armed forces?
Well, the Indian armed forces did not speak to
You
Donald
want to
Trump.
celebrate Pakistan and not India's victory against Pakistan on Operation Sindoor?
Donald Trump did not speak to you, Sanju, Tushar, Tehseen, Manojit. He spoke to Mr. Modi, and Mr. Modi is running away from the Indian Parliament.
No, I hope you also paid attention to the statement that was released. 1 second. I hope you also paid attention to the statement that was released, which had details of the conversation between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump when he had gone to attend the G7 summit in Canada. And I hope you also read out what was mentioned there. Did Trump contest that? No, he didn't. He could have said, no, but did Donald Trump contest it? Did Donald Trump contest it? What the Prime Minister's office mentioned, did Donald Trump contest it? You tell me that, Ghanshyam Tiwari.
Please allow me to respond. Donald Trump said 20 times, and he continues to say,
if you say a lie 20 times, can it become truth?
Please allow me to complete. Please allow me to complete. Prime Minister came back to India, and he said on an election podium that I was required on a public rally, that I was required by Donald Trump to meet him in the United States, but I chose to be here at this public rally. This is not foreign policy. This is
now you're shifting goalposts, Ghanshyam Tiwari. Now you're constantly shifting goalposts because, one second, when I asked you a direct question, you don't want to respond to that. You want to bring in some other aspect here. I asked you a straightforward question, Ghanshyam Tiwari. Before I go across to Sanju, 1 second, I'll come to you. I'll give you time for a rebuttal. But Ghanshyam Tiwari, you made a point. You made a point, and I said that I asked you a question. Did you read the details that Prime Minister's office shared about the phone conversation between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump, wherein it was made absolutely clear what the conversation was about? Whether Trump had a role to play in, helping India get their ceasefire understanding with Pakistan or not. Did Donald Trump contest it? Did he issue a statement saying that no, what Prime Minister is saying is incorrect?
It is meaningless and nobody believes it.
How is it meaningless? What is meaningless here? What is meaningless here? The statement by Indian Prime Minister.
I'll tell you why it is meaningless. When two heads of state speak, there is a transcript that has to either come out jointly or has to be corroborated on both sides. We have a one-sided transcript that is being
fantastic.
used
So it was a one-sided transcript because nothing came out from the White House, so you don't want to believe it. You're saying it was a lie. Tushar Gupta, I am absolutely shocked. I am just shocked today. Tushar Gupta.
No, Heena, that's why I always say that regional parties can't be taken seriously when it comes to issues of national importance because their ideology, their prioritization, their perception of issues just depends on regional politics. And Ghanshyam Tiwari is a living testament to that. More importantly, it's not always necessary that when two heads of state talk, there has to be a transcript in public. Number 3, it's very interesting. The opposition doesn't talk about the success of Operation Sindoor. Not once I have heard Ghanshyam Tiwari or any Congress spokesperson talk about the kind of military targets, the kind of Chinese military infrastructure we breached through during Operation Sindoor and the kind of drones that were sent against us over our land and how we intercepted them. They talk none of it. They just talk about what Donald Trump said. And Donald Trump has been saying a lot of things about Iran and Israel also. That's one war where his own country is actively involved. And the day he claimed that a ceasefire had been reached, minutes later, both Iran and Israel violated that ceasefire. So that tells you how credible Donald Trump is as a head of a state. And yet the opposition wants to believe him and not believe their own prime minister, their own armed forces, because they want to rake up a political issue, a non-existent issue, just before the monsoon session begins.
Okay, I know Professor Manojit Mandal also wants to respond, but before that, Tehseen Poonawalla, do you also agree with the statement that Ghanshyam Tiwari has made? Do you also not want to believe, what we got from Indian government side, wherein they gave us details of this conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump, where they made it absolutely clear that there was no talk at any stage on subjects like India-US trade deal or US mediation between India and Pakistan?
I'm just going to make one point, and that is the statement being made on the other side is by the president of a nation. The answer can't come from a bureaucrat. With a lot of respect for Vikram Misri, the foreign minister, it must come from my prime minister. It can't be. I believe completely my army completely pulverized Pakistan. They came begging to surrender. No two ways. This is not about the army. This is about a gentleman making a statement. He's made the statement not just 18 times, he's put it on affidavit in front of a New York court. I believe my prime minister, I think this is insulting my prime minister. I want my prime minister to not say this publicly, say it in parliament in an all-party meeting, call an all-party meeting and say this. That's all I'm asking my prime minister. My response to a president, as non-serious as he may be, can't be from a foreign ministry, must be from the head of state. That's all I'm asking.
Sanju wants to respond. Yes.
Thank you. Heena, I just want to make one very important point, and I'm glad Tushar pointed this out. Via the surgical strike of 2016, the Modi government crossed the LOC. Then via the Balakot strike of 2019, we went more than 50 kilometers deep into the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area. But via Operation Sindoor in 2025, we not only crossed the LOC, we not only crossed POK, but we actually struck at the heart of Rawalpindi. We destroyed 11 air defense systems of Pakistan. We paralyzed their military combat readiness. And we brought them to their knees. But more importantly, those who keep harping about China ke saath deficit hai, it needs to be put in context. The deficit with China, I don't know whether it was Ghanshyam or Tehseen, they said it was $37 billion, now it is $100 billion. When the deficit with China was $37 billion, our annual exports were only $200 billion. When the deficit with China is $100 billion, our annual exports are more than $821 billion. So please don't compare apples with watermelon. And the final point, Heena, is this. Who are the top 10 companies that invest in India in terms of manufacturing base? Very quickly. Not one of them is Chinese. Please, 10 seconds. Vodafone, Amazon, Unilever, Samsung, Toyota, Mercedes, DHL, Adidas, Garnier, Nestle, Coca-Cola, Panasonic, LG, Microsoft, IBM, Roche. Not one of them is Chinese, my friends. So please don't come and speak gibberish. And the more 3 investors in terms of FDI.
Okay, Professor Manojit Mandal wants to respond. Yes, Professor Mandal.
So I think I'll give you a sense of the kind of foreign policy, success of foreign policy that you are talking about. You go to America, you talk to Mr. Donald Trump, what happens? India is hyphenated with Pakistan. Not even that. And thereafter, Asif Munir is called for a special dinner with Mr. Trump. Now even their Air Force chief is called for special dinner. That's the kind of success that you have. India is now talked to with Pakistan. There lies the shame of our foreign policy. Nothing more, nothing less.
You are a liar.
Okay. But Professor Manojit Mandal, I will come back to the point that I started this debate with.
I'm a liar.
Sorry? I'm saying I'll come back to the point that
I'm a liar.
No, I'm not calling you a liar, sir. Why will I do that? Why will I do that?
Do I even need to dignify
Professor Manojit
someone
Mandal,
like Sanju Barma?
Who's calling you a liar?
Minister.
whose credibility on
No,
TV.
Professor, one second,
as a
Professor Manojit
spokesperson,
Mandal, one
she
second.
called me a liar.
Allow me to at
What
least
can I
ask
say?
the question.
This is
Professor Manojit
this is
Mandal, आप
happening
इतना
on
गुस्सा क्यों हो रहे हैं?
channel. People,
One second.
you
Professor
cannot-
Manojit Mandal, आप सवाल तो सुनिए. You're not even allowing me to finish the question. I want to ask you. I mean,
yes.
global powers are watching how
What is
India is rising. It is Indian economy that is the fastest growing economy in the world, despite COVID pandemic, despite all the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing around the world. So, don't you think the global powers who used to be these big daddies of the world, big economic powers of the world, are seeing India as a threat?
This is a fantastic globe. I mean,
Is it not true?
India
Yes or
is
no?
rising globally. People are still dying out of hunger. India is rising globally. People are still dying out of hunger. People are still looking for health care and sanitation. People are still looking for education. You have stopped funding the education institutions. Look at the funding. Well, global power. Only 2.5% of the GDP is spent on education. That is the rise of India as a global power. And my friends are already talking about the
Tushar
trade
Gupta,
deficit with other
who was
countries.
America
The
really
rise
backing in
I think
1970? One
it's
second.
very
I've heard you,
idea
Professor
about-
Manojit Mandal, and nobody has called you liar. So, Professor Manojit Mandal, we all have heard you. Tushar Gupta, who was America backing in 1970 war when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister?
Well, it wasn't backing India for sure, right? It wasn't. In the 1970s, America had its own challenges with India, and India had its own challenges with the West. But again, Congress today likes to claim that India somehow is isolated from the world when it comes to its war with Pakistan. It is not. We have the support of Israel, we have the support of America, and we have the support largely of Europe as well. But if you're going to compare it with IMF loans, you're going to compare it with how the US is treating Pakistan in lieu of the logistical support they get with respect to Afghanistan and Iran, then you're not going to reach anywhere. The mere fact that this government could cross over the border, hit Pakistan in Punjab, not their terror camps alone, but also their military bases, tells you how assertive India is. And my problem is no one in the opposition, and even the BJP for that matter, they don't talk about it enough, that the kind of magnitude Operation Sindoor achieved, it was mammoth. To hit Pakistan from Skardu to Karachi. Skardu is where China uses it as an operational base for their CPEC, for their defunct CPEC. We don't talk about it. And yet the opposition wants to continue this barrage of lies that, oh, America is not supporting us. They are with Pakistan. America was supporting Pakistan while they were at war in Afghanistan, but America also went inside Pakistan to kill Osama bin Laden back in 2010-11. So let's not compare America's foreign policy and assume it to be having some kind of permanent structure. It's very volatile. It's very, seasonal. It changes every single year. So let's not, sort of hold on to this one little hope to pin the Prime Minister and sort of call the entire foreign policy a failure. That's very, very incorrect.
All right, I'm completely out of time. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Sanju Verma, Tushar Gupta, Tehseen Poonawalla, Ghanshyam Tiwari, and Professor Manojit Mandal. Appreciate all for joining us here on this debate this evening. We'll, of course, be tracking the story closely ahead as well. For now, slipping into a very short break. Stay with us.